Christmas morning at my mother's house should have been magical. But walking up those familiar stone steps with my 7-year-old daughter Emma, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. The December air bit at our faces as we approached the front door, our arms loaded with carefully wrapped presents that had cost me 3 months of overtime shifts. Emma bounced beside me in her red velvet dress, the one I'd saved up to buy her completely unaware that today would change everything. Through the frosted windows, I could see the warm glow of the Christmas tree and hear the laughter of my sister's family already gathered inside. The moment we stepped through the door, I knew something was wrong. My mother Patricia stood in the hallway, wearing that particular smile she reserved for moments when she wanted to make someone squirm. Her silver hair was perfectly styled, and she wore her best holiday sweater, the one with actual pearls sewn into the snowflake pattern. Behind her, my sister Jessica sat on the couch with her twin 10-year-old boys, Tyler and Caleb, while my brother Mark lounged in Dad's old recliner with his 15-year-old daughter Madison. The living room looked like a magazine spread. The 12-foot Douglas fir dominated the corner, decorated with the same ornaments we'd used since childhood. Garland draped every surface, and the smell of cinnamon rolls drifted from the kitchen. Everything appeared perfect, but the way everyone's conversation stopped when they saw me told a different story. Emma ran straight to her grandmother, wrapping small arms around Patricia's waist. "Merry Christmas, Grandma. We brought presents for everyone." "Of course you did, sweetheart," Patricia said, but her eyes stayed fixed on me, with that calculating look I'd learned to dread. "Your cousins have been waiting for you to start opening gifts." I set our stack of presents under the tree, noting how the boys' eyes followed my movements. These weren't small gifts. The gaming system for Tyler, the professional art supplies, for Caleb, the designer purse for Madison, the expensive perfume for Jessica, the power tools for Mark, and the silk scarf for Patricia had eaten up most of my Christmas bonus. Emma had helped me pick out each one, excited to give her family something special. "Arden works so hard for us," Emma announced proudly. "He has 2 jobs so I can have nice things." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Jessica shifted on the couch, suddenly very interested in her coffee mug. Mark cleared his throat and reached for the remote, turning up the Christmas music just loud enough to fill the awkward pause. "Well," Patricia said with false brightness, "shall we start the gift exchange? Children first, of course." Emma practically vibrated with excitement as she settled cross-legged on the carpet near the tree. Tyler and Caleb flanked her, already eyeing the professionally wrapped packages with their names written in elegant script. These weren't the gifts I'd brought. Someone else had been shopping, and they hadn't been shopping for Emma. "Tyler, you first, sweetie," Jessica said, pulling out her phone to record. "Mommy wants to get this on video for Instagram." Tyler tore into a large box and pulled out the latest iPhone, complete with a designer case and wireless earbuds. His whoop of joy echoed through the room as he immediately started setting it up, fingers flying across the screen with the expertise of his generation. Caleb's turn came next. His gift was a professional camera with multiple lenses and a carrying case that probably cost more than I made in 2 weeks. He handled it like the treasure it was, already discussing angles and lighting with his mother. Madison opened a jewelry box containing real diamond earrings, followed by a gift card to her favorite clothing store for $500. Her squeal of delight made Patricia beam with satisfaction. Then it was Emma's turn. She reached for the one present left with her name on it, a small box wrapped in newspaper comics instead of proper wrapping paper. The corners were dented and the tape was coming loose. Emma's face lit up anyway because she was 7, and it was Christmas, and presents were magical no matter what they looked like. Inside the damaged box were 8 broken crayons rattling around loose, their paper wrappers torn and faded. Some were worn down to nubs. Others had been snapped in half. They weren't even a complete set, missing basic colors like black and brown. A few pieces of a broken coloring book lay underneath pages already scribbled on with different crayons entirely. Emma stared at the contents for a long moment, her small face working to process what she was seeing, while her cousins compared their expensive electronics just inches away. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes full of confusion and hurt that she was trying so hard to hide. "It's lovely, sweetheart." I managed, my voice thick with rage I couldn't let show. "What do you say to Grandma?" "Thank you, Grandma," Emma whispered carefully, placing the broken crayons back in their battered box like they were precious gems. That's when Patricia struck. "Well," she said with a shrug that was anything but casual, "that's what happens when your dad walks away from the family." The room went dead silent. Even the Christmas music seemed to fade into nothing. Jessica stopped recording. Mark set down his coffee mug hard enough to rattle the side table. Madison looked up from her jewelry box with wide eyes. Emma's confused gaze darted between Patricia and me. "But Daddy didn't walk away. Mommy left us." Patricia's smile turned sharp as broken glass. "Sometimes children don't understand the whole story, dear." The injustice of it hit me like a physical blow. Sarah had been the one who walked out on our family 2 years ago. She'd been the one who chose her new boyfriend over her husband and daughter. She'd been the one who packed her bags and left Emma crying in my arms, asking when Mommy was coming home. I'd been the one working 2 jobs to keep our apartment to pay for Emma's dance classes to make sure she never felt abandoned, even though her mother had done exactly that. And somehow in my mother's version of reality, I was the villain. I looked around the room at my family, these people I'd loved and supported, and bought expensive Christmas presents for waiting for someone to speak up, waiting for someone to defend me, or at least correct the obvious lie. But Jessica studied her manicured nails like they held the secrets of the universe. Mark suddenly found the football game on TV fascinating. Madison pretended to text on her new phone. Nobody said a word. Emma held her box of broken crayons against her chest and asked in a small voice, "Can we go color with these at home, Daddy?" "Of course we can, baby," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. "We'll make the most beautiful pictures." But inside, something fundamental had shifted. Looking at my daughter trying to be brave about her humiliating gift, while her cousins showed off their expensive toys, I realized this hadn't been an oversight or a mistake. This had been planned, orchestrated. My own family had decided to punish a 7-year-old child for crimes they thought I'd committed. I stood up slowly and walked to the Christmas tree where my carefully wrapped gifts sat untouched beneath the branches. My hands remained steady as I gathered the stack of presents I'd brought, each one representing hours of extra work and careful saving. The gaming system Tyler had been hinting about for months. The professional art supplies Caleb had admired in the store window. Madison's designer purse that cost more than my rent. The gifts that had taken me 3 months to afford while living on instant noodles and hope. "Arden, what are you doing?" Jessica's voice pitched higher with each word as she watched me collect the boxes. "These were for them," I said, straightening up with my arms full of expensive packages. "They're not anymore." Tyler looked up from his new iPhone with sudden panic. "Uncle Arden, those are our Christmas presents." "No," I replied calmly. "These were Christmas presents. Past tense." Patricia stepped forward, her face flushing red beneath her perfectly applied makeup. "You can't just take back gifts, Arden. That's not how Christmas works." "You're absolutely right, Mom. It's not how Christmas works. Christmas is supposed to be about love and generosity and making sure everyone feels included." I gestured toward Emma, who was still clutching her box of broken crayons. "Tell me, how does giving a 7-year-old child literal garbage while her cousin's open electronics fit into your Christmas spirit? Now see here, young man." Patricia began drawing herself up to her full 5'4" height. "I don't have to explain my gift choices to you. Your gift choices." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You went to a thrift store and bought broken crayons for my daughter. You put them in a damaged box and wrapped it in newspaper, while you were buying iPads and cameras for everyone else. Mark finally looked away from the TV. Maybe you're overreacting, Arden. They're just gifts. Just gifts. I repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air. Madison, how would you feel if someone gave you a box of broken makeup while your cousins got jewelry? Madison shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her new diamond earrings catching the Christmas lights. I don't know. Tyler, Caleb, what if Grandma had given you each a broken toy from a garage sale while Emma opened a brand new gaming system? The boys exchanged glances but didn't answer. They didn't need to. The answer was written all over their faces. But you're their father, Jessica protested. You're supposed to provide for Emma. That's not our responsibility. You're right again. It's not your responsibility to provide for Emma. But it is your responsibility not to deliberately humiliate a child at Christmas. It's your responsibility not to punish an innocent little girl for something she had nothing to do with. Patricia's mask of Christmas cheer was slipping fast. That child's mother has been telling me some very interesting things about you, Arden, about how you're failing as a father, about how you can't even afford proper clothes for Emma half the time. The accusation hit like a slap. I thought about Emma's closet full of carefully chosen outfits, most bought secondhand, but clean and well-fitted. I thought about the dance classes I never missed paying for even when it meant skipping lunch for a week. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made to ensure my daughter never felt the poverty that had haunted my own childhood. Sarah told you I was failing as a father. My voice came out deadly quiet. She's been texting me regularly. Poor thing is beside herself with worry about Emma's welfare. Patricia pulled out her phone with the smugness of someone about to deliver a killing blow. Look at these messages. Arden can barely afford groceries. Emma comes to my house wearing clothes with holes. He's working so much he's never home to take care of her. She held the phone screen toward me, showing text after text from my ex-wife, painting me as a neglectful, poverty-stricken father who couldn't provide basic necessities for his own child. Emma tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, why is Grandma saying mean things about you? You take good care of me. Out of the mouths of babes, my 7-year-old daughter could see the truth that my own mother refused to acknowledge. I know I do, sweetheart, I said, lifting her up to sit on my hip. And you know what? I think it's time we went home to have our own Christmas celebration. Arden, you're being ridiculous, Jessica said, standing up from the couch. Just put the presents back, and we can pretend this whole thing never happened. Pretend? I stared at her in disbelief. You want to pretend that you all decided to emotionally abuse my daughter on Christmas morning? You want to pretend that you believed lies about me without ever asking for my side of the story? They're not lies, Patricia snapped. Sarah showed me proof, bank statements, photos, documentation of your inadequate parenting. Bank statements. Something cold slithered down my spine. What bank statements? Patricia's triumphant smile faltered slightly. Well, She showed me evidence that you're not providing properly for Emma. What exactly did Sarah show you, Mom? Financial records proving you're not putting money aside for Emma's future, that you're spending everything on yourself while that poor child goes without. The room started spinning. Sarah had access to Emma's education savings account as a joint custodial parent. We'd set it up together when Emma was born, back when we were still a happy family with shared dreams for our daughter's future. I'd been depositing money into that account every single month, without fail watching it grow slowly but steadily despite my tight budget. Emma, I said carefully, when you're at Mommy's house, does she ever talk about money, about college or savings? Emma nodded eagerly. Mommy says you don't save any money for me, but that's silly, because I saw you put money in my piggy bank and in the computer at the bank. The blood drained from my face. When was the last time Mommy took you to the bank, sweetheart? Last week she said we had to check on my college money, but then she got really quiet and made a phone call. I set Emma down gently and pulled out my own phone with shaking fingers, logging into the mobile banking app while my family watched in sudden, uncomfortable silence. The savings account I'd been faithfully contributing to for 7 years, the one that should have had close to $15,000 by now, showed a balance of $837. Someone had been making withdrawals, large ones, recent ones. How much money should be in Emma's college fund? Mark asked quietly, his lawyer instincts finally kicking in. $14,712, I answered without hesitation. I have the deposit receipts at home. Patricia's phone slipped from her nerveless fingers. The silence in the room was deafening. Even the Christmas music seemed to have stopped playing, though. I knew that was just my brain shutting out everything except the numbers on my phone screen. $837. Nearly $14,000 missing from my daughter's future. Emma bounced on her toes, oblivious to the financial devastation I was discovering. "Daddy, can we open our presents at home now? I want to try my new crayons." Her innocent voice cut through my shock like a blade. Here was my daughter trying to be excited about broken crayons while her mother had been systematically stealing her college fund. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. In just a minute, baby, I managed scrolling through transaction history with increasing horror. Withdrawal after withdrawal, each one authorized with Sarah's signature. Money for a vacation to Hawaii. Money for a new car, down payment. Money for designer clothes and jewelry that I'd seen her posting on social media. Arden, Jessica's voice had lost all its earlier sharpness. "What are you seeing?" "Theft." The word came out flat and hard. Systematic theft of my daughter's education fund. Patricia sank into the nearest chair, her face gray. "That's impossible. Sarah wouldn't..." Sarah wouldn't what mom wouldn't lie, wouldn't steal from her own child. I held up the phone so everyone could see the screen. "Take a look. Every withdrawal coincides with a new purchase Sarah's been bragging about online." Mark stood up and moved closer, his lawyer training evident in how carefully he examined the evidence. "Arden, this is serious. This is criminal fraud if she's been accessing funds designated for Emma without proper authorization." "Oh, it gets better," I said, feeling a terrible calm settling over me. "Emma, sweetie, tell everyone about Mommy's new car." Emma beamed with pride. "Mommy got a really pretty white car. Her boyfriend bought it for her. But she paid him back with money from my college account because she said college was stupid anyway, and I should learn to be pretty instead." The room went completely silent. Tyler and Caleb had stopped playing with their new electronics and were staring at Emma with wide eyes. Madison had actually put down her phone, something I'd never seen her do voluntarily. "Sarah told our daughter that college was stupid," Jessica whispered. "She said girls who are pretty enough don't need to be smart, and that I should just find a nice husband when I grow up instead of wasting time with books." Emma's 7-year-old voice carried no understanding of how devastating those words were. "But Daddy says I'm smart and pretty, and that I can be anything I want to be." Patricia covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God, what have I done?" "You believed someone who walked out on her family instead of the son who's been here all along," I said quietly. "You chose to trust the word of a woman who abandoned her child over the father who's been working himself to death, trying to provide for her. I thought..." The text messages were so convincing. She had screenshots of conversations, photos of Emma looking sad or tired, evidence that seemed so real. Manufactured evidence. Mark's legal mind was clearly working now. "Arden, do you have records of your deposits into Emma's account?" "Every single one, including the deposit slips and bank confirmations." I looked around the room at my family's stricken faces. "I also have records of every expense I've paid for Emma. Medical bills, school supplies, clothes, dance lessons, everything. 2 years of documentation proving that I've been the only parent actually providing for my daughter." Emma tugged on my shirt again. "Daddy, why does everyone look sad?" "It's Christmas." How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mother has been stealing her future while lying to her grandmother about her father? How do you tell a child that the people who should love her most have been using her as a weapon in their own twisted games? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, sweetheart, I said, crouching down to her level. But the important thing is that you're loved and safe. I know that, Emma said matter-of-factly. You tell me every day. Mommy doesn't tell me that. She tells me about her boyfriend and asks me questions about you. I got everyone's attention. What kind of questions? I asked gently. Like, do you have a girlfriend? And do you keep money hidden in the house? And what time do you come home from work and stuff like that? Emma shrugged like it was no big deal. I told her you don't have a girlfriend because you're too busy taking care of me, and you don't hide money because we put it in the bank together. Jessica made a small sound of distress. She's been interrogating Emma. It's called parental alienation, Mark said grimly. And combined with the financial abuse, Sarah's looking at serious legal consequences. My phone rang the sound, jarring in the quiet room. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, and something about the timing made my blood run cold. I answered on speaker so everyone could hear. Arden, you need to bring Emma to my Christmas party right now. Sarah's voice filled the room sharp with irritation. My boyfriend's family wants to meet her, and we're taking photos for our Christmas cards. Emma's spending Christmas with her father's family, I replied calmly. Don't be difficult. She belongs here with her real family. My boyfriend's parents specifically requested that she be in the photos. Emma wrinkled her nose. But Daddy, they're not my real family. You and Grandma and Uncle Mark and Aunt Jessica are my real family. Sarah's voice turned icy. Put Emma on the phone, now. No. Excuse me. I said no, Sarah. Emma is staying with me today. The hell she is. I'll call my lawyer. I'll have you in court so fast your head will spin. You're in violation of our custody agreement. Actually, I'm not. Today is my designated Christmas with Emma as per our divorce decree. You can check your copy. There was a pause. Then Sarah's voice came back even more furious. Fine. But this isn't over. My boyfriend's been documenting your inadequate parenting, and we're going back to court for full custody. Emma deserves better than a father who can barely afford to keep the lights on. That's when I smiled for the first time all morning. Sarah, you're on speakerphone. My entire family is here listening to this conversation. Another pause longer this time. I don't care who's listening. Everyone needs to know what kind of father you really are. You mean the kind who's been putting money into his daughter's college fund every month while you've been stealing it? Dead silence from the phone. The kind who works 2 jobs to afford dance lessons and nice clothes while you tell lies about him being neglectful? Still nothing. The kind who documents every expense and every interaction because he knows exactly what kind of person he's dealing with. The line went dead. Emma looked up at me with confusion. Why did Mommy hang up? Because Mommy just realized she's in very big trouble, Mark said quietly. My phone rang again immediately. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Let me guess, I said, answering. This is Sarah's boyfriend. Listen here, you piece of garbage, a male voice growled. You're going to bring that kid to our party, or I'm going to come over there and drag her out myself. Now my family could hear both sides of Sarah's real nature. The threats, the aggression, the complete disregard for Emma's well-being in favor of their photo opportunities. And you are, I asked calmly. I'm the man who's going to be that little girl's new daddy real soon. So you better start showing some respect. Emma's face crumpled. I don't want a new daddy. I like my daddy. Did you hear that? I asked into the phone. My daughter doesn't want a new daddy. She's quite happy with the one she has. That kid doesn't know what she wants. She's 7 years old. You're right, she's 7 years old. She's a child who deserves to feel safe and loved, not threatened by some stranger who thinks he can intimidate her father. I'm warning you, man. Bring her here now or there will be consequences. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. I looked around the room at my family's shocked faces. Patricia had gone completely pale. Jessica was staring at the phone like it was a snake. Mark had pulled out his own phone and was clearly recording the conversation. Well then, I said pleasantly, I guess we have different definitions of consequences. Because from where I'm standing, the only person facing consequences today is going to be you and Sarah when the police and family court hear about your threats against a child. The man on the other end started cursing, describing in graphic detail what he was going to do to me when he found me. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching Emma's face as she heard this stranger threaten her father with violence. I was seeing the fear creep into her eyes as she realized these weren't just angry words, but real threats from someone who wanted to hurt the person she loved most. That's when something fundamental shifted inside me. This wasn't just about stolen money or family dysfunction anymore. This was about protecting my daughter from people who saw her as nothing more than a prop in their twisted games. And I was done playing games. I hung up on Sarah's boyfriend mid-threat and immediately started dialing 911, but Emma's small hand stopped me. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered, crawling onto my lap with her box of broken crayons still clutched against her chest. "I know, baby, but you're safe. I promise you're safe." I wrapped my arms around her, feeling the trembling in her small frame. "Uncle Mark, did you get all that recorded?" Mark nodded grimly, holding up his phone. "Every word, including the threats of physical violence and the intimidation tactics involving a minor." "Good, because we're going to need it." Patricia finally spoke up, her voice shaky and small. "Arden, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "No, Mom, you had every idea. You chose not to see it." I kept my voice gentle because Emma was listening, but I needed the truth spoken. You chose to believe someone who walked away over someone who stayed. You chose to participate in humiliating a 7-year-old child because it felt good to have someone to blame for a situation that was never my fault. Jessica stood up abruptly and started pacing. "This is insane." Sarah seemed so concerned about Emma's welfare. She was always asking about her wanting updates, sending worried messages about whether Emma was okay. She was gathering intelligence, Mark said in his lawyer voice, fishing for information she could use against Arden in court. Classic manipulation tactics. But the photos she sent her Patricia protested weakly. "Emma looked so sad in some of them." "Mom," I said patiently, "have you ever seen a photo where Emma looks genuinely unhappy when she's with me?" Patricia thought for a moment, then shook her head slowly. Because Sarah was taking those photos during her custody visits. When Emma was sad about leaving me? When Emma was upset about going to a house where her mother was more interested in her new boyfriend than in spending time with her own daughter? Emma nodded against my chest. "Mommy always takes pictures when I'm crying about missing Daddy. She says it's important to remember how I feel." The room went silent again as the implications of that innocent statement sank in. Sarah had been documenting Emma's distress and using it as evidence against me without mentioning that she was the cause of that distress. My phone buzzed with a text message, then another, then another. Within seconds, it was buzzing continuously with incoming messages. "Should I check those?" Mark asked, gesturing toward my phone. I nodded, still holding Emma. Mark picked up the device and his face went white as he read. "What is it?" Jessica asked. "Sarah is losing it. These messages are unhinged. She's demanding Arden bring Emma immediately. She's threatening legal action. She's claiming Arden is kidnapping Emma." Mark scrolled rapidly through the texts. "And now she's saying she's on her way here to collect Emma herself. She can't just show up and take Emma," I said. "Our custody agreement is very specific about Christmas Day arrangements." "She can try," Mark replied. "And given her boyfriend's threats, this could get ugly fast." Emma pulled back to look at me with wide eyes. "Is Mommy really coming here?" "She might be, sweetheart, but you don't have to go anywhere. You don't want to go." I want to stay with you and color pictures with my new crayons. The simple innocence of that statement combined with the broken crayons in her lap nearly broke my heart. Here was my daughter trying to find joy in literal garbage, while her mother plotted to steal her away from the parent who actually loved her. You know what I said making a decision that felt long overdue? I think it's time everyone knew the whole truth about what's been happening. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app, scrolling back through months of recordings. Sarah doesn't know that I've been documenting our conversations. Every phone call, every exchange when she picks up Emma, every interaction where she's shown her true colors. You've been recording her, Patricia asked. In a one-party consent state, it's perfectly legal to record conversations you're part of. And given Sarah's history of lying and manipulation, I wanted protection for both Emma and myself. I found the recording I was looking for and hit play. Sarah's voice filled the room. But this was a very different Sarah than the concerned mother my family thought they knew. I don't care if Emma doesn't want to come this weekend, Arden. She's coming anyway. My boyfriend's ex-wife is going to be there, and I need Emma to make us look like a real family. Emma's voice came through clearly on the recording. But I want to stay with Daddy. We were going to make pancakes and go to the park. Emma stopped being selfish. This is important for Mommy's relationship. You need to think about what's good for Mommy, not just what you want. The recording continued with Sarah coaching Emma on what to say to me about being happy at Sarah's house, followed by Emma's reluctant agreement to lie because Mommy said it would make things easier for everyone. Jessica sat down heavily, her hand pressed to her mouth. Oh my God. She's using Emma as a prop. That's not even the worst one, I said grimly, finding another file. This is from 3 weeks ago when Emma got sick during Sarah's custody weekend. Sarah's voice came through again sharp with irritation. I can't take you to the doctor, Emma. I have plans. You'll just have to wait until your father picks you up tomorrow. If you're still sick, then he can deal with it. Emma's small, congested voice. But Mommy, my throat really hurts. Well, maybe if your father fed you better, you wouldn't get sick all the time. This is probably his fault anyway. Patricia was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face as she listened to her granddaughter being emotionally manipulated by her own mother. There are dozens more, I said, stopping the playback. Sarah coaching Emma to spy on me. Sarah telling Emma that I don't really love her because if I did, I'd buy her more expensive things. Sarah explaining to a 7-year-old that divorce means children have to choose sides and that choosing Daddy means being disloyal to Mommy. This is emotional abuse, Mark said flatly. Clear, documented emotional abuse of a minor. Emma looked up at me with confusion. Daddy, why did you record Mommy being mean? Because sometimes grown-ups need proof when other grown-ups are hurting children, I explained gently. And Daddy wanted to make sure he could protect you if Mommy ever tried to take you away from people who really love you. Like today. The sound of car doors slamming outside made everyone freeze. Through the front window, we could see a white BMW parked crookedly in the driveway. Sarah and a large man in an expensive leather jacket were striding toward the house, with the kind of aggressive body language that made my protective instincts flare. That's them, Emma said quietly, pressing closer against me. Mark was already on his phone with 911 speaking quietly but urgently about a custody dispute involving threats against a minor. Sarah's fist pounded on the front door with enough force to rattle the frame. Open this door right now, I know Emma's in there. Patricia looked at me with panic in her eyes. What do? We let them show everyone exactly who they really are, I said calmly. But nobody opens that door until the police arrive. Arden, Sarah's voice was getting more hysterical. I have a court order. You have to give me my daughter. No, you don't, Mark called through the door. And if you did, you'd go through proper legal channels, not show up making threats. Sarah's boyfriend's voice was even louder. Open this damn door or I'll kick it in. Emma started crying not the manipulated tears from Sarah's photos, but real fear as she heard the man who'd threatened her father now threatening to break down her grandmother's door. That's when I knew Sarah had made her final mistake. She'd brought her problems to my family's home. She'd terrorized my daughter in front of witnesses. She'd shown her true nature to people who had previously believed her lies. And she'd done it all while I had everything documented. The police sirens were getting closer, and through the front window, I could see neighbors coming out of their houses to watch the spectacle. Sarah and her boyfriend were about to discover that threatening a child on Christmas morning in a nice suburban neighborhood was the kind of mistake that had consequences. Real consequences. The police arrived with lights flashing, but no sirens, clearly treating this as a domestic dispute rather than an emergency. 2 officers approached the house, while Sarah and her boyfriend stood on the front porch, their earlier aggression suddenly tempered by the presence of law enforcement. Officer Martinez, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, knocked gently on the door. "This is the police. We received a call about a custody dispute. Can someone come speak with us, please?" Mark opened the door, immediately identifying himself as an attorney and explaining that he was the brother of one of the parties involved. The officers asked to speak with everyone separately, starting with Sarah and her boyfriend outside. Through the window, we could see Sarah gesturing wildly, clearly, trying to paint herself as the victim. Her boyfriend stood with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating even in front of police. But their body language was all wrong. Sarah kept pointing at the house accusingly, while her boyfriend kept checking his phone like he had somewhere more important to be. "Daddy, why are the police here?" Emma asked, still curled up on my lap. "Because sometimes when grown-ups disagree about something important, the police help make sure everyone stays safe," I explained. Officer Davis, a younger man with a serious expression, came inside to speak with our side of the story. Mark immediately took charge, presenting the recorded threats, the documentation of the stolen money, and Emma's own statements about what had been happening during Sarah's custody visits. "This is very thorough documentation," Officer Davis said, reviewing the evidence on Mark's phone. "Most custody disputes don't come with this level of proof. Most custody disputes don't involve systematic financial abuse and parental alienation," Mark replied. "My brother has been documenting everything because he suspected something like this might happen." Officer Davis crouched down to Emma's level. "Hi there, sweetheart. Can you tell me your name?" "Emma," she said shyly, still holding her box of broken crayons. "Emma, that's a pretty name. Can you tell me how you're feeling right now?" "Scared," Emma admitted. "Mommy's boyfriend said he was going to hurt my daddy, and Mommy was banging on the door really loud." "Are you scared of your mommy?" Emma thought carefully before answering. "Sometimes. When she gets angry about Daddy, she says things that make me feel bad inside." "What kind of things?" Emma looked at me for permission, and I nodded encouragingly. "She says Daddy doesn't really love me because he doesn't buy me expensive things like she does. And she says if I tell Daddy about our conversations, it will make Daddy very sad, and it will be my fault." Officer Davis exchanged glances with Mark. "Has your daddy ever made you feel scared like that?" "No," Emma said firmly. "Daddy makes me feel safe. He always tells me the truth even when it's sad, and he never asks me to keep secrets about important things." Outside, we could hear Sarah's voice rising again as she argued with Officer Martinez. Through the window, I could see her boyfriend getting more agitated, pacing back and forth on the porch. "The mother seems quite upset," Officer Davis observed. "She's upset because her plan isn't working," I said quietly. "She's been systematically stealing from our daughter's college fund while telling my family lies about my ability to provide for Emma. When I discovered the theft this morning, everything started falling apart for her. You mentioned stolen money. Do you have documentation of that?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the banking records, the missing deposits, the correlation between Sarah's withdrawals, and her social media posts about expensive purchases. Officer Davis whistled low. "This is $14,000. That's grand theft." "Theft from a minor's designated education fund," Mark added, "which carries additional penalties." A commotion outside drew our attention. Sarah's boyfriend was shouting at Officer Martinez, jabbing his finger in the air aggressively. We couldn't hear the words, but his body language was clearly threatening. "That's not going to go well for him," Officer Davis said dryly, reaching for his radio. Within moments, backup arrived. 2 additional patrol cars pulled up as Sarah's boyfriend continued his aggressive display. We watched through the window as he was quickly handcuffed and placed in the back of a police cruiser, still yelling. Sarah's demeanor changed instantly. Without her backup, she seemed to deflate, her voice becoming pleading rather than demanding as she spoke with the officers. Emma pressed her face against the window. "Why did they put Mommy's boyfriend in the police car?" "Because he was being mean to the police officers," I explained. "And when people are mean to police officers, there are consequences." Officer Martinez came inside while her partner dealt with Sarah. "Ma'am," she said to Patricia, "the woman outside claims this is her mother's house and that she has a right to enter. Is that accurate?" Patricia straightened up with more dignity than I'd seen from her all day. "This is my house. That woman is my former daughter-in-law, and she is not welcome here after what she's done to my granddaughter. She's also claiming that Mr. Officer Martinez checked her notes. "Mr. Arden is in violation of a custody order by keeping the child here." "That's a lie," Mark said, immediately pulling out his phone. "I have a copy of the custody agreement right here. Christmas Day is specifically designated as Arden's time with Emma." Officer Martinez reviewed the document carefully. "This is very clear. The mother has no legal right to demand the child today. She also has no legal right to withdraw money from Emma's education account without Arden's permission," Mark added, "which she's been doing for months while lying about Arden's financial stability." Officer Martinez looked at me with something like sympathy. "Mr. Arden, this is quite a complex situation. The documentation you've provided suggests serious violations of custody agreements and possibly criminal activity. I'm going to recommend that you contact family court immediately and consider filing charges for the financial crimes." Emma tugged on Officer Martinez's uniform. "Excuse me, police lady." "Yes, sweetie." "Is my mommy in trouble?" Officer Martinez crouched down to Emma's level. "Your mommy made some poor choices, honey. The grown-ups are going to work together to make sure you're safe and that everyone follows the rules. Will I still have to visit Mommy's house?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Everyone in the room understood that Emma was essentially asking if she'd have to continue subjecting herself to emotional manipulation and neglect. "That's for the judges to decide," Officer Martinez said gently. "But I want you to know that your feelings and your safety are the most important things. If you ever feel scared or unsafe, you tell your daddy or another trusted grown-up, okay?" Emma nodded seriously. "Daddy always keeps me safe." Through the window, we could see Sarah talking rapidly with the other officer, gesturing toward the house, and clearly trying to explain away her boyfriend's arrest and her own behavior. But without her intimidation tactics and manufactured evidence, she just looked like what she was: a woman who'd been caught in a web of lies and manipulations. Officer Davis closed his notebook. "Mr. Arden, based on what we've seen and heard today, I strongly recommend that you file for emergency modification of the custody agreement. The evidence of financial abuse and emotional manipulation is substantial. I'll be representing my brother in that process," Mark said, "and we'll be pressing charges for the theft as well." "Good," Officer Martinez said firmly. "Children deserve better than being used as weapons in adult conflicts." As the officers prepared to leave, Sarah appeared at the door one more time. But this Sarah was different. Gone was the aggressive confidence and righteous indignation. This Sarah looked small and desperate. "Please," she said, speaking directly to me through the screen door. "Please let me just talk to Emma, just for 5 minutes." Emma immediately hid her face against my shoulder. "I don't want to talk to Mommy right now," she whispered. "Emma doesn't want to see you right now, Sarah," I said quietly. "But she's my daughter too." "Yes, she is. And as her mother, your job is to put her needs before your wants. Emma needs to feel safe right now. She needs to process what happened today. She needs to know that the adults in her life will protect her from situations that make her feel scared or confused. Sarah's face crumpled. I never meant for any of this to happen. Yes, you did, I replied sadly. Every lie you told my family, every dollar you stole from Emma's future, every time you made her feel guilty for loving me. Every single action was deliberate and calculated. The only thing you didn't mean to happen was getting caught. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Ma'am, you need to leave this property now. If you want to address custody issues, you can do so through the proper legal channels. As Sarah walked back to her car, she looked smaller and older than I'd ever seen her. Her boyfriend was gone, arrested for threatening a police officer. Her lies had been exposed to everyone who mattered. Her theft had been documented and would soon be prosecuted. Emma lifted her head from my shoulder as Sarah's car pulled away. Daddy, can we go home now and color pictures? Absolutely, baby girl. We can color the most beautiful pictures you've ever seen. But as I gathered our things to leave, I noticed that my expensive gifts were still stacked by the door. The presents I'd saved for months to buy. The gaming system and art supplies and designer purse that had cost me so much but meant so little in the face of what really mattered. Patricia noticed me looking at them. Arden, those gifts? Keep them, I said. Or return them, or donate them. I don't really care. But you spent so much money. I spent money trying to buy acceptance from people who should have loved Emma unconditionally. I thought if I was generous enough, sacrificed enough, proved myself enough, you'd remember that we're family too. Patricia's face crumpled with shame. We are family. You and Emma are the most important parts of this family. Then prove it, I said gently. Not with words, but with actions. Not just today, but every day going forward. Emma was already at the door, clutching her box of broken crayons and practically vibrating with excitement to get home and start coloring. Her joy in the face of everything that had happened was both heartbreaking and inspiring. As we walked to our car, I realized that this terrible Christmas morning had actually been a gift. Not the kind wrapped in pretty paper, but the kind that comes from finally seeing the truth clearly. Emma was safe. The lies had been exposed. The theft would be prosecuted. And my family finally understood who I really was and what I'd been trying to do all along. Sometimes the most beautiful pictures come from broken crayons. We just pulled into our apartment complex when my phone started ringing. Sarah's name appeared on the screen again, but this time I was ready for her. Don't answer it, Daddy, Emma said from her car seat. I want to go inside and color. You're absolutely right, sweetheart. I declined the call and turned off the phone entirely. Today is about us. Our small 2-bedroom apartment had never looked more welcoming. Emma ran straight to our kitchen table, which was already set up as her art station, and carefully emptied her broken crayons onto the surface. Look, Daddy, some of these colors are really pretty even though they're broken. She was right. Despite being snapped and worn down, there were still usable pieces of blue and green and yellow. Emma arranged them carefully, treating each fragment like a treasure. What should we draw first? I asked, pulling out a pad of drawing paper I'd bought weeks ago. Let's draw our family, Emma said decisively. The real family that loves each other. As she began sketching with a stubby red crayon, my phone buzzed with text messages, even though I'd turned off the ringer. Through the screen, I could see message after message from Sarah, growing increasingly desperate. Then the apartment buzzer rang. Emma looked up from her drawing with alarm. Is that Mommy? I don't think so, baby. Mommy doesn't know our new address. We'd moved to this apartment complex 6 months ago, specifically because Sarah had been showing up unannounced at our old place, always with some emergency that required immediate access to Emma. The buzzer rang again, followed by a familiar voice through the intercom. Arden, it's Mark. Can I come up? I pressed the button to let him in, wondering what had brought my brother to our apartment on Christmas afternoon. Emma continued coloring now, working on what appeared to be a house with a very large Christmas tree in front of it. Mark knocked softly on our door a few minutes later. When I opened it, he was holding a large shopping bag and wearing an expression I'd never seen on his face before. "I brought some things," he said simply. "Uncle Mark!" Emma jumped up from her drawing and ran to hug him. "Look what I'm drawing. It's our house with a Christmas tree." Mark crouched down to examine her artwork. "That's beautiful, Emma." "Is that you and Daddy in front of the house? And you and Aunt Jessica and Grandma Patricia and Tyler and Caleb and Madison? It's everyone who really loves us." Mark's voice was thick when he responded. "We do love you, Emma. Very much. And I'm sorry it took us so long to show it properly." He stood up and handed me the shopping bag. "These are from all of us. Real Christmas presents for Emma. The kind she should have received this morning." Inside the bag were beautifully wrapped packages. A professional art set with every color imaginable. A tablet loaded with educational games and drawing apps. Books about brave princesses and smart girls who changed the world. Clothes in Emma's exact size, not hand-me-downs, but brand new outfits chosen specifically for her. "Mark, you didn't have to." "Yes, we did. We absolutely had to." He sat down heavily on my couch. "Arden, we need to talk about what happens next." Emma was already tearing into the art supplies, her eyes wide with wonder at the array of fresh crayons, colored pencils, and markers. "Daddy, look, these aren't broken at all." "I see that baby. Uncle Mark picked out very special supplies for very special artwork." Mark watched Emma for a moment, then turned to me with serious eyes. "I've been making calls since you left Mom's house." "Sarah's in real trouble, Arden. The financial fraud charges alone could put her in prison for 5 years. "Good," I said without hesitation. "Her boyfriend was charged with terroristic threats and threatening a police officer. He's looking at significant jail time, and there's a restraining order in place preventing him from contacting you or Emma." "Also good. But there's more." Mark pulled out his phone and showed me a series of text messages. "Sarah's been contacting other family members trying to get them to pressure you into dropping the charges. She's claiming it was all her boyfriend's idea, that she was being coerced." I read through the messages, which painted Sarah as a victim of an abusive relationship who'd been forced to steal from her own daughter. It was masterfully manipulative, designed to generate sympathy and shift blame away from her own choices. "She's lying, of course," Mark continued. "The bank records show the theft started months before she even met this boyfriend. But she's good at playing the victim." Emma looked up from her new art supplies. "Uncle Mark, why does Mommy always lie about everything?" The question was so direct and innocent that Mark actually flinched. "Some people lie because they don't know how to take responsibility for their mistakes, Emma. Daddy always tells me the truth even when it's hard. Like when he explained why Mommy doesn't live with us anymore." "What did Daddy tell you?" Mark asked gently. "That sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt the people they love, and that when someone hurts you over and over, it's okay to protect yourself by staying away from them." Emma went back to coloring with her new supplies. "He said Mommy chose her new boyfriend over our family, and that made Daddy very sad, but he would always choose me first no matter what." Mark stared at me with something like awe. "You told her the truth. She deserved the truth. Children aren't stupid, Mark. They know when adults are lying to them. Emma knew her mother had chosen someone else over her. Pretending otherwise would have just made her feel crazy. Sarah told us you were poisoning Emma against her. I never said a single negative word about Sarah in front of Emma until today. I didn't have to. Emma experienced Sarah's neglect firsthand. She didn't need me to tell her that her mother was more interested in photos for social media than in spending quality time together." Emma held up her new drawing. "Look, I drew all of us having a real Christmas." The picture showed stick figures arranged around a Christmas tree, all holding hands. Each figure was carefully labeled in Emma's 7-year-old handwriting: Daddy, Emma, Uncle Mark, Aunt Jessica, Grandma, Patricia, Tyler, Caleb, Madison. "Where's Mommy in the picture?" Mark asked carefully. Emma considered this seriously. Mommy's not in this picture because this is a picture of people who make each other happy. Mommy makes people sad. The simple honesty of it was devastating. This wasn't parental alienation or manipulation. This was a child's clear-eyed assessment of who brought joy into her life and who brought pain. My phone buzzed with another text message despite being on silent mode. Mark glanced at it and his expression darkened. "What now?" I asked. "Sarah's threatening to go to the media. She wants to paint this as a father keeping a loving mother away from her child on Christmas." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Let her try. We have documentation of everything. Recordings of her emotional abuse, evidence of her theft, police reports of her boyfriend's threats. If she wants to make this public, I'm more than ready for that conversation." Emma had moved on to a second drawing, this one, featuring a house with 2 stick figures outside it. "This is me and Daddy at our apartment," she announced. "We're safe here." "Yes, we are," I agreed, sitting down next to her at the table. "We're very safe here." Mark's phone rang and he stepped into the kitchen to answer it. I could hear him speaking in low, serious tones using his lawyer voice. When he came back, his expression was grim. "That was the prosecutor's office. They want to meet with you tomorrow to discuss the fraud charges, and family court has agreed to an emergency hearing for Thursday to address the custody modification." That fast? When there's documented evidence of child endangerment and financial crimes, the system moves quickly. Mark sat back down across from us. "Arden, you need to understand what you're walking into. Sarah's going to fight this with everything she has. She's going to hire expensive lawyers and try to paint you as a vindictive ex-husband who's using Emma as a weapon. Let her try. The truth is the truth. The truth doesn't always win in family court, especially when one parent has more money for legal representation." I looked at Emma, who was now drawing what appeared to be a rainbow with her new colored pencils, humming softly to herself as she worked. "I don't care how much money Sarah spends on lawyers. I'm not backing down. Emma deserves better than being used as a prop in her mother's desperate attempts to look like a functional adult." Mark nodded slowly. "Good, because I'm going to be representing you and I don't intend to lose." "Mark, I can't afford—" "You're not paying me. This one's pro bono, family rate." He smiled for the first time since arriving. "Besides, after what I witnessed today, I owe Emma the best legal representation I can provide." Emma held up her rainbow drawing. "Look, I made this for our refrigerator." "It's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, taking the picture and admiring her careful color choices. "Should we hang it up right now?" As I taped Emma's artwork to our refrigerator, next to her school papers and dance recital photos, I realized something important had shifted today. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't fighting this battle alone. My family had finally seen the truth. The legal system was taking the crimes against Emma seriously. And my daughter was safe, happy, and creating beautiful art with her new supplies. Sarah had intended to humiliate and isolate us today. Instead, she'd exposed herself completely and united everyone who truly cared about Emma's welfare. Sometimes the best gifts come disguised as disasters. "Uncle Mark," Emma said, looking up from her third drawing, "will you stay for dinner? Daddy makes really good spaghetti, and we have ice cream for dessert." Mark looked at me questioningly, and I nodded. "There's plenty. And Emma's right about the spaghetti." As I started cooking dinner while Emma colored and Mark made more phone calls to build our legal strategy, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. Not the desperate hope of someone trying to fix an impossible situation, but the calm confidence of someone who knew he was finally on the right path. Emma's Christmas had started with broken crayons and humiliation, but it was ending with family support, legal protection, and the knowledge that she was truly loved. And tomorrow we'd start building the future she deserved. 3 months later, Emma and I walked up those same stone steps to my mother's house. But everything was different now. The March air carried the promise of spring, and Emma skipped beside me carrying a folder of artwork she'd created specifically for this visit. "Daddy, do you think they'll like my pictures?" she asked, clutching her portfolio against her chest. "They're going to love them, sweetheart, just like they love you." The front door opened before we could knock. Patricia stood there wearing a genuine smile, not the calculated Christmas performance from months ago. "Emma, I've been looking forward to this all week." Emma ran into her grandmother's arms without hesitation. The relationship had taken time to rebuild, but Patricia had worked hard to earn Emma's trust back through consistent actions rather than empty words. Inside, the house felt warmer somehow. Jessica was in the kitchen making Emma's favorite cookies while Tyler and Caleb were setting up a board game on the living room floor. Madison looked up from her homework with a genuine smile when she saw Emma. "Aunt Emma." Tyler called out using the nickname he'd started after the custody hearing. "Come see the new game we got. It's perfect for 7-year-olds who are really smart." Emma beamed at being called smart and ran over to investigate. I watched my nephews explain the rules to her with patience and kindness, treating her like the valued family member she'd always deserved to be. Mark emerged from the den where he'd been working on legal documents. "How did the final hearing go yesterday?" "Exactly as expected," and I replied, unable to keep the satisfaction out of my voice. "Full custody awarded to me. Sarah gets supervised visitation only 2 hours every other Saturday. And she has to complete parenting classes and anger management before even that can happen." Patricia joined us, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "And the criminal charges? Convicted on all counts. 18 months in prison followed by 5 years of probation. Full restitution of Emma's college fund plus penalties and interest." I paused, watching Emma laugh with her cousins. "Her boyfriend got 3 years for the threats and assault charges." Jessica appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Good, they both deserved worse." "The important thing is Emma's safe now," Patricia said quietly. "And she knows she's loved." Emma looked up from the board game. "Grandma Patricia, can I show you my pictures now?" "Of course, sweetheart. I can't wait to see what you've created." Emma carefully opened her folder and began laying out her artwork on the coffee table. Over the past 3 months, using her extensive new art supplies, she'd created an entire series of family portraits. But these weren't the stick figures from Christmas Day. These were detailed, colorful drawings that showed real artistic talent. "This one is you and me baking cookies," she explained to Patricia, pointing to a drawing of 2 figures in a kitchen surrounded by mixing bowls and cookie sheets. "And this is Uncle Mark teaching me about being a lawyer." She continued, showing a picture of herself and Mark, sitting at a desk covered with books. "This is Aunt Jessica and me going shopping for my dance recital costume." The drawing showed 2 figures outside a store holding hands and smiling. "And this is all of us having Easter dinner together." The final picture was a large family scene around a dinner table, everyone laughing and talking. Patricia's eyes filled with tears as she looked at each drawing. "Emma, these are absolutely beautiful. You're such a talented artist." "Daddy says I get my creativity from Grandpa William. He was an artist too, right?" "He was," Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. "He would have been so proud of you." Mark crouched down to examine the drawings more closely. "Emma, these show real skill. Have you thought about taking art classes?" "Daddy already signed me up. I start next week," Emma bounced with excitement. "And I'm going to keep taking dance and maybe learn piano too." "How can you afford all that?" Jessica asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry that was rude." I smiled. "It's okay. Between Sarah's restitution payments and not having to pay for legal battles anymore, we're actually doing pretty well financially. Plus, I got promoted at my main job, so I was able to quit the second one. Which means more time for me and Daddy to do fun things together," Emma added helpfully. Tyler held up one of Emma's drawings. "This is really good, Emma. You drew the details on Grandma's house perfectly." "I have a really good memory for important places," Emma said seriously. "Daddy says artists need to pay attention to everything around them." Caleb picked up another drawing. "Can you teach me how to draw hands?" Mine always look like weird mittens. Sure, Daddy bought me a book about drawing people, and it has really good hand instructions. I watched my daughter confidently, sharing her knowledge with her older cousins, no longer the timid child who'd hidden behind me on Christmas morning. The change in her was remarkable. Without the constant stress of Sarah's manipulation and emotional abuse, Emma had blossomed into a confident, articulate, creative little girl. Arden, Patricia said quietly, pulling me aside while the children were distracted with the art discussion. I owe you an apology that goes far deeper than what I said on Christmas. Mom, we've talked about this. No, let me say this. I failed you as a mother. I failed Emma as a grandmother. I chose to believe lies because they were easier than facing the truth about my own shortcomings. Her voice shook slightly. I was so angry about the divorce, so disappointed that my vision of our perfect family had fallen apart, that I needed someone to blame. And you were an easy target because you were still here, still trying, still caring. You were grieving too, Mom. Divorce affects everyone in the family. That's no excuse for what I did to Emma, for what I put you through. Patricia watched Emma explaining drawing techniques to her cousins. Look at her now. Look how confident and happy she is. That's because of you, Arden. Because you protected her and loved her and refused to let anyone, including me, make her feel less than treasured. Jessica joined our conversation carrying a plate of fresh cookies. Dad would have been ashamed of how we treated you both, she said quietly. He always said family meant protecting each other, not tearing each other down. Mark looked up from where he was examining Emma's artwork with serious professional interest. These drawings could actually be entered in competitions. Emma has real talent. Can I really enter contests? Emma asked, overhearing. Would people want to look at my pictures? Absolutely, Mark replied. In fact, I know about a children's art contest coming up next month. The theme is family love. I think you'd be perfect for it. Emma's face lit up. Could I draw all of us together? The real family that takes care of each other. That sounds perfect, Patricia said, crouching down to Emma's level. And if you win, we'll frame it and hang it right here in the living room where everyone can see it. What if I don't win? Then we'll frame it anyway, Patricia said firmly, because it represents something more important than any contest. It represents how much we all love each other. Emma threw her arms around Patricia's neck. I love you too, Grandma, even when you gave me broken crayons. Patricia hugged her back tightly. Those broken crayons taught us all something important, didn't they? What's that? That even when things are damaged, they can still create something beautiful if you use them the right way. Emma considered this seriously. Like how our family was broken for a while, but now we're making beautiful memories together. Exactly like that. As the afternoon wore on, we played board games, looked through photo albums, and planned Emma's upcoming art classes. The conversation was natural and warm, without the undercurrent of tension that had characterized so many previous family gatherings. Around 4 o'clock, Emma curled up on the couch next to me, tired but happy from all the attention and activity. Daddy, she said quietly. This was a much better family day than Christmas. Why's that, sweetheart? Because everyone was really here, not pretending or being mean or trying to hurt people's feelings. Everyone was just here, being family. I looked around the room at my mother, my siblings, my nephews and niece, all of them genuinely engaged with Emma and with each other. No one was checking their phones or making excuses to leave early. No one was saying hurtful things disguised as jokes. Everyone was simply present, participating in the quiet joy of being together. You know what, Emma, you're absolutely right. This is what family is supposed to feel like. Mark came over and sat on Emma's other side. Emma, can I tell you something important? She nodded seriously. Your daddy is one of the bravest people I know. He fought for you when it was hard. He told the truth when it was scary. He protected you when others couldn't. And because of that, you're safe and loved and free to become whatever amazing person you want to be. Emma looked up at me with those big brown eyes that had seen too much but somehow remained full of trust and hope. Daddy, are you really brave? I don't know about brave, sweetheart. I just know that you're the most important thing in the world to me, and I'll always do whatever it takes to keep you safe and happy. Even when it's really hard, especially when it's really hard. Emma snuggled closer against my side. That's what brave means. Doing the right thing even when it's scary. As we prepared to leave that evening, Emma carefully packed up her artwork, while Patricia wrapped up leftover cookies for us to take home. Same time next week, Patricia asked hopefully. Wouldn't miss it, I replied. Emma's been looking forward to showing you her dance routine. And I want to see everyone's pictures from the family photo session, Emma added excitedly. The whole family had decided to do professional portraits together, a visible symbol of our renewed commitment to each other. As we drove home through the gathering dusk, Emma chattered happily about her day, already planning what she wanted to draw for the art contest. But then she grew quiet for a moment. Daddy, do you think Mommy misses me? The question caught me off guard. We hadn't talked about Sarah much since the final court hearing, and Emma hadn't asked to see her or mentioned missing her. I think your mommy probably does miss you, sweetheart. But missing someone and being good for someone are two different things. What do you mean? I chose my words carefully. Sometimes people love us in ways that hurt us. They might miss us and want to be with us, but they don't know how to love us in healthy, safe ways. That doesn't mean we stop caring about them, but it does mean we need to protect ourselves. Emma thought about this seriously. Like how I still love Mommy, but I don't want her to make me feel bad about myself anymore. Exactly like that. Love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you over and over. Real love means wanting what's best for someone, even when it's not what we want for ourselves. Is that why we don't live with Mommy anymore? Because you wanted what was best for me. That's exactly why, baby girl. Even though it made Daddy very sad to have our family break apart, I knew you needed to be somewhere safe where you could grow up confident and strong. Emma was quiet for a few more minutes, then said, I'm glad we live together, just us. Our apartment feels like home. It feels like home to me too. And I'm glad Grandma and Uncle Mark and everyone else know the truth now. It feels good when people see who you really are. Yes, it does. Daddy, yes, sweetheart. Thank you for fighting for me, even when it was scary. I had to pull over because tears were making it hard to see the road. This perfect, brave, wise little girl who had endured so much and somehow emerged with her heart intact was thanking me for doing what any decent parent would do. Emma, you never have to thank me for loving you. That's just what daddies do. Not all daddies, she said matter-of-factly, but the good ones do. And you're one of the good ones. 6 months later, Emma's drawing won first place in the children's art contest. The picture showed our entire extended family gathered around a dinner table, everyone smiling and reaching toward the center, where a large cake sat decorated with hearts. At the bottom, in Emma's careful 7-year-old handwriting, were the words, "Family love means everyone gets a piece." We framed it and hung it in Patricia's living room just as promised. But we also made copies for everyone's homes, a reminder that real family isn't about perfect people or perfect situations. It's about people who choose to show up for each other, who choose truth over comfortable lies, who choose to protect and nurture the most vulnerable among them. Emma kept her broken crayons too, in a special box on her art table. Not because they were useful anymore, but because they represented the day everything changed. The day she learned that her worth wasn't determined by how others treated her. The day our family learned that love without protection isn't really love at all. And sometimes when she's working on a particularly important piece of art, she pulls out one of those broken crayons and adds a small detail with it, a reminder that even damaged things can create beauty when they're used with intention and care. The most important lesson Emma learned that Christmas wasn't about art or family dynamics or even justice being served. It was that she deserved to be cherished, protected, and celebrated exactly as she was. That lesson has carried her through every challenge since, and I know it always will. Because once a child knows they're truly loved, that knowledge becomes unshakable. And once they know they deserve respect and kindness, they'll never settle for anything less. As Emma always says when she finishes a particularly beautiful drawing, sometimes broken things make the prettiest pictures as long as someone loves you enough to help you use them right. Have you ever had to fight for what was right when everyone else wanted you to just accept injustice? How did you find the courage to stand up for yourself or someone you loved when it felt like the whole world was against you? Share your stories in the comments below. We all need reminders that we're stronger than we think and that love really can triumph over manipulation and lies. Thank you for listening to Emma's story and mine. I hope it reminds you that every child deserves to be protected and cherished, and that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that choose to love each other through the hardest times. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe for more real stories about overcoming family challenges, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Remember, you are worthy of love, respect, and protection. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Until next time, keep fighting for what matters most, and never forget that broken crayons still color the most beautiful pictures when they're used with love.